Hi, Vacation Bible School friends. It's Melissa back with week 3 of our Backyard Vacation Bible School. Recapping last week, we talked about Noah, and you guys sent in a lot of fun things. So I can tell you did some good activities and hopefully learned a little bit about Noah. This week, week 3, we have the story of Joseph. So you're going to hear that story in a little while. And if you look that up in your Spark Story Bible, for those of you who have that, it's actually 2 stories worth what we read today. And there is one story about Joseph in the Spark Story Bible before this. So you'll notice if you do the craft that Jennifer's family does, you might think, there's nothing in our story that gets read about a fancy coat, but we're making a coat. So that's actually the story before the ones that we read today. So if you want to go back and read that, it's just a little bit of a story. So you could sure do that. Lots of stuff in the Bible about Joseph. But along with that craft, we have a lot of interesting activities today. Some of them have to do with dreaming, because Joseph interpreted a dream for the Pharaoh. So you can think about dreams a little bit with me here. I think all of us dream. And sometimes you maybe remember the dreams in the morning, and sometimes we don't, like we dream, but we just don't remember it. And isn't it interesting when you wake up and you remember a dream? I feel like a lot of times they're kind of wild and crazy. Like it's our brain just going through stuff while we're sleeping. But Joseph did some of that. So some of our activities have to do with that. One of them, which could be kind of fun, it says take digital photos that represent your hopes and dreams. Save them to an album or create a Pinterest board, or you could send them to us with a label and then we could post them too. So maybe it has to do with like a job. Maybe you dream of a career someday. So then you could figure out, how could I take pictures to represent that dream? Or maybe you don't have a digital phone or some way to take pictures. Maybe you could draw pictures instead. That would work just as well, or cut them out of magazines or the newspaper if you have any of that at home. And maybe it's not a dream about a job. Maybe it's a dream of what your life will look like in some way. Maybe you want to live in the country, so you take pictures out of the countryside. Or maybe you hope that you will live on a farm or in the forest. So it could be anything, whatever you dream about. Maybe it'll be a dream of people getting along and treating each other well. See if you can figure out a way to take a picture that looks like what your dream is. So that could be an interesting one to do for sure. How about the clouds? We're going to see a family looking at the clouds. That's something that you can do if you're just out laying around outside someday. Maybe you need to relax and have a little break. If there's some clouds in the sky, look up the clouds and daydream. See what you think. Like, does that look like a dinosaur, a dragon, or that looks like a heart? So that's something fun you can do. And then kids, of course, it's fun to be silly and crazy. So sometimes it's fun to make up stories that go with them. If it's a dragon, and then maybe you see a dragon over here in the sky, and then over here in the sky, you're like, oh, that looks like a tree. The dragon's going to blow fire and burn the tree down. I don't know. So you can make up fun, crazy little stories. That's always kind of adventuresome to do as well. Then another one says, this is an interesting one. Talk to someone older. Ask about a time that God made their dreams come true, whether it happened in expected or unexpected ways. One thing that you might learn as you get older, and sometimes we just learn this with experience, is we kind of think we want something, but then later we realize we didn't really want that, or we didn't need it. And it's hard to think of that at the time. Usually we realize that well after the fact. You know, if you're a kid, to relate it, maybe you really want a whole jug of ice cream, like the whole container of ice cream, because wouldn't that taste good? I mean, I love ice cream. And sometimes I think I just want a bowl after a bowl after a bowl. But as an adult, I know if I do that, I'm going to have bellyache later. Like, it's not going to feel good. So I might dream of that. I might hope that I could just have like 10 bowls of ice cream in a row because I love it so much. But I know that that is not useful. That's not going to be a good deal. So that's kind of a kid example of what this is talking about. But maybe you could find some adults and ask them, you know, was there a dream that you had and God helped that come true? You might be interested to find out what they say. So ask family members, or once again, you can maybe ask a neighbor. This might be a good time. Do you know somebody who's kind of been stuck at home with this virus stuff going on? Or maybe do you know somebody who lives in a nursing home type place that they haven't been able to have visitors? Give them a call. They are probably lonely. They would probably love to hear from you. And this can be like your excuse to call them. You know, you can call them for whatever, just to say hi and see what's been going on and tell them about yourselves. But maybe you can also say, hey, We're doing Vacation Bible School, and our activity this week is about dreams. Did you ever have any dreams and God helped them come true? So that could be interesting if you want to do that and learn a little about somebody else in your life. That'd be cool. Okay, as always, we have coloring sheet, your sticker chart. So I hope you have a good week. Hope you enjoy doing some of these activities, listening to the story. And let's start off with our theme song, and I'll see you later.
Welcome to week 3 of Vacation Bible School. We are so excited to be singing with you again. Let's start with our theme song, King of Me.
My God's the King of the giants. My God's the King of the lions. My God's the King of fishes of the deep. My God's the King of me. My God's the King of the giants. My God's the King of the lions. My God's the King of the creatures of the deep. My God's the King of me.
Have you heard the story about a guy named Joe? He had the coolest coat many years ago. He would dream about what the future may hold. God called Joseph to trust and be bold.
My God's the King of the giants. My God's the King of the lions. My God's the King of the creatures of the deep. My God's the King of me. My God's the King of the giants. My God's the King of the lions. My God's the King of the creatures of the deep. My God's the King of me.
We hope you had some fun like we did. Sometimes it's okay to be silly. Grab your Spark Story Bibles and hear all about Joseph and his dreams.
Hi, we're the Soderlands. I'm Diane.
I'm Dane.
I'm Lori.
I'm Drake. Today's story is about Joseph from Genesis 41. It's also in the Spark Story Bible on page 50. Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and there came up of the Nile 7 sleek and fat cows, and they gazed up at the reed grass. Then 7 other ugly and thin cows came up to the Nile after them and stood by the other cows on the bank Nile. The ugly cows and the thin cows ate up 7 sleek and fat cows, and Pharaoh awoke. Then he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. Then 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. The thin ears swallowed up by 7 plump and full ears. Pharaoh awoke, and it was a dream.
In the morning, his spirit was troubled. So he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my faults today. Once Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. We dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own meaning. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each according to his dream. As he interpreted to us, so it turned out, I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged.
Then Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was hurriedly brought out of the dungeon. When he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, It is not I. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, In my dream, I was standing on the banks of the Nile, and 7 cows, fat and sleek, came up out of the Nile and fed in the reed grass. Then 7 other cows came up after them, poor, very ugly and thin. Never had I seen such ugly ones in all of the land of Egypt. The thin and ugly cows ate up the first 7 fat cows, but when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had done so, for they were still as ugly as before. Then I awoke.
I fell asleep a second time, and I saw in my dream 7 ears of grain, full and good, growing on one stalk, and 7 ears withered, thin and blighted by the east wind, sprouting after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears. But when I told it to the magicians, there was no one who could explain it to me.
Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do.
The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, as are the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. After them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land. The plenty will no longer be known in the land because of the famine that will follow, for it will be very grievous. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a man who is discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plenteous years. Let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and lay up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be reserved for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to befall the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine.
Joseph's rise to power.
The proposal pleased Pharaoh and all of his servants. Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find anyone else like this, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" So Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only with regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Removing the signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand. He arrayed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride the chariot of his second in command, and they cried out in front of him, "Bow to the knee." Thus he set him over the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt."
Pharaoh gave Joseph the name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, as his wife. Thus Joseph gained authority over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plenteous years, the earth produced abundantly. He gathered up all the food of the 7 years when there was plenty in the land of Egypt, and stored up food in the cities. He stored up in every city the food from the fields around it. So Joseph stored up grain in such abundance, like the sand of the sea, that he stopped measuring it. It was beyond measure. Before the years of famine came, Joseph had 2 sons, whom Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my hardships and all my father's house." The second he named Ephraim, for God has made the fruitful in the land of my misfortunes.
The 7 years of famine began to come, just as Joseph had said. There was famine in every country, but throughout the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do." And since the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the world came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine became severe throughout the world.
Because we're learning about Joseph today, we thought that we would sing a song called Make a Difference. Joseph had dreams, and he often knew what they meant, and eventually he got to help people, and that was his call from God. And so we hope that you will discover what your call is so that you too can make a difference, just like Joseph did. You gave your life to make a difference.
You gave your life to make a change. You welcomed all to your table. You're calling us to do the same. I want my life to make a difference. I want my life to make a change. I want my life to do some good here. I want my life to make a change. I want my life to make a difference. I want my life to make a change. I want my life to do some good here. I want my life to make a change.
Next up is activity time. We hope that you have a wonderful time, and send us those pictures so we can see what you're up to.
Hi, welcome to Bethlehem Vacation Bible School Online. My name is Jennifer Amon.
I'm Olivia Almond.
And I help out in Melissa's office with Wednesday school, Sunday school, Vacation Bible School. So today, Olivia and I are going to be doing a craft for you. If you have your Spark Bible at home, you can open to page 48, and we are going to be making Joseph's coat. So in this Bible story, you can read with your family. It's all about Joseph and his brothers. You can see he has his coat on. His father loved him so much, he gave him this really special, amazing, colorful coat. So this is what we're going to be making today, Joseph's coat. You're going to need a couple things at home, really simple to have, simple materials. We have some card stock. This is cream, but you can do white, whatever color you have. It's going to be covered up. Toilet paper, excuse me, or a paper towel roll. We're going to need that, and then we have lots of tissue paper. These were already cut, thanks to Melissa, but you can have just whole pieces and then just rip them into shreds, whatever you find easiest. Okay, to start our project, you're going to take your cardstock. We're just going to draw a simple coat design. Okay, so if you're watching Olivia here, you can just make a little, we just made a little one. You just draw the collar and then out on the sides for the sleeves. So remember, the bigger the coat, the more tissue paper you are going to have to put on it. We made ours pretty small. If you see, it's like the size of my hand. So we made ours pretty small, which didn't take us long to cover with tissue paper. If you want a huge one, you can go ahead and make it the whole size of your paper. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to cover with tissue paper. Okay, let me make a little bigger one just to show you what it would look like. And then this can be however you want. This coat doesn't have to be any certain way. It doesn't have to look a certain way. You can use your imagination. So you see mine, you see Olivia's. Okay, so we have our coats. Now we're going to go ahead and cut those out. So grab a scissors. If you're too little for scissors, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, maybe an older sibling, whoever is at home can help you out and cut your coat. Okay, we have our jackets, our coats cut out, so Olivia's is a little bit smaller than my coat. Now the next part is going to take you the longest, okay? So there's a couple different ways you can attach your tissue paper. If you have a pencil or a marker, anything that has a flat top, you can grab your tissue paper and then you can kind of pinch it around the top and then put a little teeny dab of glue on the top. And then you can glue it onto your coat. Okay, now that's going to be kind of tedious. It's going to take you a long time, but it looks a little bit cooler with the way the tissue paper kind of sprouts out. The way that we did our example right here was, if you're watching Olivia, she's just going along the bottom of her coat or top, just squishing together the tissue paper and then sticking it down. So that way you can do more than one at a time. You just grab a piece, stick it down, grab a piece, stick it down. And that will go a little bit faster than if you are doing each teeny piece separately. But there's more than one option. So whatever you feel would work best. So this is kind of how they stick up to the side. Or this way that we chose to do the example. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue these on. And we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so we are all glued. So if you look, Olivia did hers by just crunching up the tissue paper and sticking it on. So here is my method of using the pencil tip. So you can see it does look really cool. It kind of sticks out more, but it takes a lot more time. So I did these 2 rows in the same amount of time it took her to do that one. Okay, so go ahead and choose whatever method works easiest, whatever you want to do, however much time you have, whatever works for you. So once you have everything on your coat, then you're going to take your toilet paper roll or paper towel roll, and you're just going to measure it on the back of your coat. So you're going to hold it up, see how much you need. This is going to be on tall enough so you can't, or excuse me, short enough so you can't see it. Just enough to give it a little boost, so you can use it as a centerpiece on your table, or you can prop it up on your dresser. Flying paper towel. So just measure it out, and then just go ahead and put some glue on your toilet paper or paper towel roll, and then glue it onto the back of your coat. You might need to press it down, hold it down a little bit for it to dry. Okay, so Olivia's gluing it down. Just make sure that when you're measuring it out, it doesn't come over the top of your coat. You don't want to see the toilet paper holder from behind. So she has hers measured and glued. She's just going to give it a little squeeze so it dries. And then you can just go ahead and prop that up when it's dry. And you have Joseph's coat of many colors. There you go. So you can leave this at your kitchen table, your dresser, wherever you might see it, that you can talk about it with your family. You can talk about the Bible story, read that in your Spark Bible, and enjoy this Vacation Bible School craft. Bye!
Look at the clouds and find shapes and images and tell a story about them. God has created much beauty and lots of great pictures in His clouds.
Hello, my name is Tucker, and I'm going to tell you a story about how a football named Freddie got to be the football in the Super Bowl. And it's not just going to be me telling this story, it's going to be my friends. This is Pug, this is Fuzzy, this is Simba, this is Larry, and this is Love. We're going to tell you a story. So one day, Freddie found out that he was going to be the football in the Super Bowl for being the most responsible football in the entire school. He was so excited, but one day seemed like 4 days. So then, the next day when the Super Bowl did come, Freddie was so relieved that it had come because it seemed so long. The teams battled it out throughout the game, but then at one point, the team Freddie was cheering for got the lead and held on to it for the rest of the game. Freddie was happy and so was everyone else. The end.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed our video this week. Lots of fun activities that I hope you see some good examples of here. Let's talk about the story a little bit. There's a lot in this story, isn't there? And some of it's a little confusing. So there's Pharaoh, and you're like, what's a Pharaoh? It's kind of like a king. So somebody back in the olden days, and he was in charge of some land, like a country. We could kind of compare it to a country or a state, you might say. So we had Pharaoh, and he's having these dreams, and he wants to know what they mean. He thinks these mean something. It might be important, but I don't know. And he asks all these people to come and interpret, like to tell him. I don't know why he thinks other people are going to know, but he says, maybe somebody can tell me what these dreams mean. And nobody can. And finally somebody says, oh, there was this guy and he did interpret our dreams right. So they go find him, and it's Joseph. So he comes and he listens to the Pharaoh, and he says, I like how he says this. He says, I don't interpret the dreams. God tells me what they mean, and I just tell you. So Joseph is kind of saying, God just uses me to do this task or this skill. So he does tell about this. And if you were a little confused and didn't quite get it, basically what is happening is Pharaoh's dream is saying there's going to be 7 good years. Like you're going to have really good crops. You're going to make lots of money. You're going to bring in all these food products. But then you're going to have 7 years and it's going to be terrible. The cattle are going to die. The crops are going to wither. That means like they won't get enough rain or they won't grow. And if you don't save up, people are going to die and be hungry. So Joseph interprets the dream, and the Pharaoh is so grateful. The Pharaoh's like, oh, thank you. I am so glad that I know this. And he rewards Joseph. He gives them like authority. He gets to be sort of a boss, you might say, of other people. And he says, people need to listen to you because you told me this. So they do. They listen to God. I feel like a lot of times in the Bible, the stories are people who don't listen to God. Because let's be honest, we do that a lot. But in this case, the Pharaoh did listen to Joseph and God, and he does save up. So he saves up, they have plenty. And then this is the part that kind of ties back into the older part of the story, which we didn't read. They actually had such an abundance, so much extra, that people from other regions or other lands came and asked them, could we buy some of your food? We didn't know, or we didn't listen, so we didn't save up, and all of our people are going hungry. So they actually, where Joseph is, are able to share. They had saved up extra so they can share with their neighbors, which I think is a fabulous ending to this story. Of course, there's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of the version that we're going to go with and work with. So dreams, remember we're kind of talking about dreams, that sort of thing, but also you can kind of tie in like these guys listened to God. And then because they listened, they were able to help others, which I think that's kind of a good takeaway as well. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Do that activities, whichever ones you think you will enjoy, or whichever ones you can rope mom and dad into doing with you. And we will see you next week. We're going to talk about a woman, finally. We're talking about Miriam and some women of the faith. So I will see you again next week. Send in those pictures. Bye-bye.
To end our time together, let's sing our theme song one more time.
My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me.
Have you heard the story about a guy named Joe? He had the coolest coat many years ago. He would dream about what the future may hold. God called Joseph to trust and be bold.
My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.